Welcome back to the flight deck. In the last video we got the aircraft up and going, loaded on the passengers, cargo and fuel, programmed the FMC, and finished all the cockpit preparation ready for push and start. So today we're going to do our push and start. We'll get the engines up and going, we'll taxi down to the runway, take off and climb up to cruise. So let's get in the pilot seat and do the one last thing we got to do before we start our push. Alright, so we're going to call the tug. I'm using Pushback Express.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We will be ready shortly.
Roger.
First thing I'm going to do is, or the last thing I'm going to do is set up our displays over here. So for the takeoff, I like to be on the 10-mile range. I'm going to turn on our traffic. I'm going to turn on our data, which will give us our constraints and everything. And I'm going to turn on the terrain radar. Over here on the first officer's side, we're going to center his screen. That will give us traffic front and behind. I'm going to turn on his traffic. And I'm going to set him to a 20-mile range. So that will give us 20 miles forward and back and good TCAS, situational awareness all around the aircraft. Alright. So we are ready for push and start.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Parking brakes released.
Pushing back.
And that was just pushing on the brake pedals on the rudder pedals. So we can get ready to go. We're going to go up here. We're going to turn on the other 3 fuel pumps. We have no fuel in the center. As you can see, it says 0, so we're not worried about
You are clear behind, and you can start your engines at
having
your
those
discretion.
pumps on. Packs are going to come off for engine start. That will leave all the air for running through and pushing the engine over to get her up and started. We're going to start engine 2 first, so engine start is set to both igniters. We're going to turn the engine start selector to ground, and now we're going to watch. So as N2 starts to spin up, we're watching it to get up to 20%. You can hear it start to wind up. When that reaches 20%, we're going to come down here and turn on the fuel valve, or open the fuel valve. And you can see the start valve is open. Low oil pressure. We're starting to get N1 rotation. Exhaust temperatures are coming up, and down here you can see the oil pressures are starting to build as well. You can hear the engine speeding up or being pushed out to our taxi line. And we'll hear the igniter cut back. It'll snap off on its own. There it goes. And the engine is now pretty much up and running. It's just settling in. So we're going to come up and do the same thing here for engine number 1. Over to ground. We're waiting for that N2 to spin up. Looks like we're on the line. They're going to ask us to set the parking brake.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
So once again, push down on the brake pedals, pull the lever back.
Parking brake set.
Roger.
We have
okay, the tow bar is
20%
disconnected
on
and
N2.
the equipment is clear.
Thanks, and you can disconnect and go to
Fuel
hand
is
signals.
open and
Thanks.
running.
Have a good flight. See you later.
Tug should start pulling out now. There she goes. Fuel is starting to flow. We've got the exhaust gas temperatures rising. N2, N1 are rising. Around 18, we'll hear the ground starter cut off. There we go, and we have good start on engine number 1. So we're going to come back upstairs. So engine generators 1 and 2 will go on, and we can do a quick check up here. Generator 1 is providing power. Generator 2 providing all the power, and everything is good there. So the engine 1 and 2 start switches will now go to continuous for takeoff. Just in case we have water or anything go in, we need them firing. Critical point in time. Probe heats for the pitot-static system are up here. We're going to turn them on both sides of the aircraft. Wing and engine anti-ice would go on now, which is located right here, but we don't need it today. Engine 1 and 2 bleeds will now come on. So we're now feeding the bleed air off of the engines. Packs can come back on. Recirc fans are set to auto. Isolation valve will now go to auto. APU bleed can come off, and we're going to shut the APU down. There we go. Alright, flaps. You can see this is our reminder page. It's a flaps 5 takeoff, so we're going to move the flap lever to flaps 5. That's 1, 2, and 5. And there's our indicator here for our flaps. They will slowly move until they're on flaps 5. Elevator trim, you can see it once just a hair over 6. Here's the gauge down here. So it's currently just under 4. So we're going to go back on the trim, spin the trim wheel. So there's 5. Pretty much 6. Right about there is good. See, our flaps are now on flaps 5. We do our flight controls. If you click on the systems button here, it brings up the systems page, including the control positions. So we can go full left, full right, and neutral, full forward, full back, neutral, full left rudder, full right rudder, and neutral. So flight controls are working. We can go over to engine instruments now. Everything is looking good, and we can bring that up here onto the main screen. So forward departure on the panel, we can preload. We can't do LNAV because we've got that vector point that we're going to do. So we'll go VNAV, level change, and heading select. There we go. So when we go to Command A autopilot, it will level change until we get to where the VNAV will kick in, and it will fly that heading until we do the direct to and get us off on the direction we want to be going. Set Roger back up on the legs page, and we should be pretty much good to go. So auto throttle will come on. Warning recall is good, and we can request taxi. So the taxi light will go on, and we'll set our auto brakes to RTO for takeoff. So we're going to be taxiing straight down Alpha. We're going to taxi down here. We'll go on Alpha Charlie to Alpha, and then all the way down to runway 33. So note about taxiing, about 25 knots on the straight like this is about the maximum you want to be going, and the engine limit for taxi on the ground is 40%, so you don't want to go over that. You will need 40% if you're on hills and stuff in some places where the taxiways have a bit of a slope to them. So we're going to pull up here to the hold short line. Come around. Again, you can use a tiller with this, but I don't have one, so it's just rudder pedals for our steering. Alright, so we'll come up here and hold. There we go. So we'll get the brakes on. Now, one thing I did forget, if you want to do your lights test, there's the switch there, and of course everything all lights up. If you're running failures, you might want to do that to make sure you don't have anything burnt out. So we're at the hold. Our pre-departure check. Fuel flow. Fuel flow is looking normal. V-speeds are checked. 139, 140, 146. MCP data radios are all checked. And we would call for our takeoff clearance. So before we move out, our position lights will go to, let's go up to this view so you can see it. Strobe and steady. It turns the strobes on and turns the, make sure the position lights are on. Taxi light will now come off. Runway turnoff lights will go on. Landing lights will go on. Transponder, come down here. We will set to TARA. That activates our transponder and make sure the TCAS is on. So all showing up over here. We have a clock over here. We'll click when we're ready to go, and we will confirm our runway. Alright, so brakes are off. We're going to roll out. We can see the runway markings. And we have the signage here at Edmonton to confirm we are on Alpha and about to enter runway 30. Now we are heavy. We're going to require a bit of power to get us out and going. First, we would visually confirm up the flight path that there is no inbound traffic as well. Even though the tower tells us that we're good to move out, it's always good to check. Bring the aircraft around, center her up. There we go. So we are ready to go. So runway is confirmed. So we will come down here, click the ET button. The elapsed time is now running. So the Toga switch is here, the screw. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the engines up to 40%. So you can see the little indicator there, brings them up to 40%. Let them stabilize. Release the brakes. We're going to start our roll. Make sure we are properly lined up here. No, everything is looking good. And we can click the Toga button, and away we go. So engines are set, N1 and Toga.
Airspeed alive.
Checked. Lots of call outs, so you can keep your eyes on the runway.
Knots.
Checked. Nice slow acceleration using the runway we have. Alright, we don't want a tail strike, so nice and general. Positive rate, gears up. Alright, so we're going to come over and go Command A. There we go. So Command A, so we're now following the heading. We're already into VNAV mode for speed, so that's good. So there's our radar altimeter. So at 1,500 feet, we can come over. And we can go LNAV. And we're now going to head off towards our first waypoint of Andy. There's the terrain radar kicking in. We're now in LNAV and VNAV speed. We're slowly starting to accelerate. You can hear the trim wheel running. The auto throttle should be on. They sometimes kick off. I'm not sure why they do that. See us turning to come online on our course. There's the wide open farmers fields of Alberta. A little bit of a haze out there today. So everything is looking good. So we're through the flaps 1, so we're going to bring our flaps up to position number 2. Flaps 1. And flaps fully up. So we can dial our heading out to 160 miles. You can see we got some terrain ahead. Those are the Rocky Mountains. But we're climbing up to 36,000 feet, so that should be good. So we're going to clear ourselves up to flight level 360. There we go. So our speed is at 250 knots, which is our limit down here. Everything is looking good. So we'll run our after takeoff checklist. Positive rate, gear is up. Autopilot is in command A, as you can see over there. So the auto brakes can come off. Gear lever will be set to the off position. Engine start selector switches can go off. Runway turn off lights will go off. Flaps are retracted. Cabin pressure, it is pressurizing properly. We are through 10,000 feet, so the runway landing lights can go off. We can ding the cabin so that they can start doing their stuff in the back. There we go. And now we just monitor our climb. We're going to be accelerating up to just over 300 knots now that we're above 10,000 feet, and then we'll resume our climb. As we head up to 360. Now we're probably not going to be, yeah, we don't have a long way to go at altitude. But that's all good. So this is monitoring stage now, since we're above 10,000 feet and we're back climbing up. We're just monitoring ourselves through the legs as we go. If you have failures on, of course, you could be watching for that. I tend not to fly with failures just because I have enough to do and don't want to get involved in that stuff. Over here you would have your TCAS display for traffic around you, same with traffic right ahead of you here. You can see we're going to be approaching the mountains. So I'll come back and we will chat again once we are in cruise. So there you go, 1,000 feet to go, and we will be in our cruise. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope this has helped you get a little bit more comfortable with the 737-800 from PNPG. In the next video, we're going to do our descent planning and our approach planning and get ourselves down into Vancouver. We'll go over weather, inputting into the FMC, and confirming our restrictions and all that good stuff. So thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can join us on the Discord. Link is in the description below. Have a good day and enjoy your flight to Vancouver.